Welcome back to Watch the Booker Man and to episode number 106 of Paul Heyman's TNA. And we're coming to this show after the back of the absolutely incredible No Surrender, our joint best show ever, with the top two matches we've ever booked during this save, both coming on that night. But now the focus turns to Bound for Glory. You cannot look back on what a great month September was without raising that bar and expecting more from October. And we begin with what is a really good segment and the entrance of the Bound for Glory Tag Team Series winners, the Motor City Machine Guns. Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin talk about the reaction and reception to what was such a great pay-per-view, No Surrender, and put over their pride at being a huge part of such a historic night. They won the first ever Bound for Glory Tag Team Series at No Surrender, and they're in the first confirmed match for Bound for Glory. They will face the American Wolves for the TNA World Tag Team Championships. But this means so much more than just a match for the titles, as huge as it'll be to potentially take those titles back. In recent months, they've seen the New Age of Honor decimate their locker room. Guys who they have spent years with in this company being taken out left, right and centre. A couple of months ago, they stood across from those guys in the parking lot as a riot broke out outside the arena. At Bound for Glory, they step inside these six sides with them and bring those titles back to TNA. Coming out from the back, Kevin Steen and Paul London have heard enough. They claim that Motor City Machine Guns were in the easy block of the Bound for Glory series, and if they'd had their schedule, Steen and London would have won their block and won the whole tournament. They point out that Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin drew 2 of their 4 group stage matches. They didn't even deserve to be in that final 4. The reason Steen and London are out is because the Motor City Machine Guns are in the opening match against them, and this leads into that match taking place. It's a solid match, not the level we've seen from the Bound for Glory Tag Team Series. I think the fact that there's not a storyline attached to it does take quite a bit away, but nonetheless a good match. Motor City Machine Guns defeating Steen and London in 11 minutes and 33, Chris Sabin pinning Paul London following a Made in Detroit. After the match, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin stand tall, with the American Wolves appearing at the top of the ramp. Given the relentless schedule the Motor City Machine Guns have endured recently, they're in no condition to match up to the champions. If Edwards and Richards decided to make this physical, it's pretty likely that, as the more fresher of the duos, they'd come out on top. Unlike at the pay-per-view, Richards and Edwards remain at the top of the ramp, but as MCMG stare them down, the All Night Express and Future Shock jump the number 1 contenders. The attack is quick and brutal. This isn't about precision, this is about hurting the two men as quickly as they possibly can, and it does just that. It leaves Shelley and Sabin down, the Wolves watching from the top of the ramp as their dirty work is done for them. They may be ensuring that Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin don't make it to Bound for Glory anything like 100%, and they won't even have to lift a finger in doing so. It's a decent segment, albeit losing heat to the storyline, but still I think a 72 is really good. And what I've got planned for this storyline, I do think basically the thing we've got on the Go Home show will bring it back up to a really good level of heat, and I think it's going to be a very, very good match as these two teams face for the first time inside a TNA ring, as I said, at Bound for Glory. Returning from a break, the commentators introduced footage from an incident which took place while we were away. The TNA World Tag Team Champions, the American Wolves, were still at the top of the ramp when they were confronted by the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, the Briscoes. Well, what was said between the two teams wasn't heard, nobody had a microphone or anything like that, but we could see they were at odds. Things got heated enough that they had to be pulled apart before it got physical, and again, it's continuing this storyline we have, albeit while Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards' focus will be on their title defense at Bound for Glory, they also have the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions who have a bone to pick with them. In the back, we get an interview with the World Heavyweight Champion, and he is asked about his match with Claudio Castagnoli in tonight's main event. Danielson says that he's faced Claudio many times in many different promotions. He's won some and he's lost some, but he's never faced Claudio inside a TNA ring. Fans of this company know him as a tag team specialist, but Danielson tells them not to underestimate him as a singles competitor. Tonight, Danielson is going to have to be at the top of his game, especially considering that he knows that Claudio probably won't be coming alone. And just like the Motor City Machine Guns, the way I'm trying to get people over in a sense is by them being workhorses. To me, there's nothing better than seeing a wrestler who's going to go out there week in and week out, put in performances, do whatever is asked of them. And I think this Bryan and Castagnoli match is going to be a really good one. We then get the second match of the night, the returning to action. She returned at the pay-per-view. Awesome Kong defeats Brooke in 3 minutes and 20 with a sit-out powerbomb. Angelina Love and Velvet Sky, perhaps wisely, staying away from ringside during the course of this match. They probably don't want much to do with Awesome Kong after they saw what she was capable of at No Surrender. A good performance from Kong. Brooke is always going to get not that good of a level of performance, but really she was just there for Kong to squash somebody. After the match, the beautiful people do come out, and Angelina Love berates Awesome Kong for her actions at No Surrender, albeit from the safe distance of the ramp. They do walk towards the ring as they say that the attack and the damage to their property was completely unprovoked. They demand an apology. Awesome Kong invites them to come closer and speak with her face to face, but Love and Sky refuse to enter the ring. Instead, they stand on the apron, figuring they can probably make a quick getaway if Kong decides to make it physical, and they're asking Kong why she can't speak, why can't she explain herself, is she stupid? As they're mocking her, Sky makes the mistake of leaning into the ring and pushing the microphone towards Kong. Kong grabs Sky and drags her into the ring, laying her out next to Brooke. While she's doing this, Love senses an opportunity to try and take Kong down from behind, but she also fails. Awesome Kong lays Angelina Love out too, standing above the Knockouts Tag Team Champions and Brooke. Basically, this team who have beaten every tag team that's come after them has found themselves unable to deal with Awesome Kong, even with 3-on-1 odds. We advance the storyline that began at No Surrender. We then go to the back where Jay Briscoe speaks with TNA cameras, his brother pacing behind him. Jay says that they're in unfamiliar surroundings right now, but they proved last week on Impact they're very familiar with a wrestling ring, even if this one has got a couple more sides to it. At Glory by Honor, they'll be back in a Ring of Honor ring, but this week on Evolve, they're putting these titles on the line, and they're facing the team they won them from back in February at the ROH 9th anniversary show, ANX. Walking in during the promo, WGTT introduced themselves to the Briscoes. They were the losing finalists in the Bound for Glory Tag Team Series, and they say that they know all about Jay and Mark, and they know that Jay and Mark know all about them. Shelton Benjamin says that he heard Jay talk about them being the greatest tag team in the world, and Haas and Benjamin are going to be watching closely to see if they prove that. That tagline is one that, of course, they've used as wrestling's greatest tag team, and it appears to be something they've picked up on and may well be a bone of contention. We then get the third match to end the hour, a super match. I'm really happy with an 82, really happy with Samoa Joe with an 86. Wolf doing okay with a 72, but this is where Jay Lethal returns the favour to Samoa Joe. Maria caused the distraction to the referee, but this time it is Jay Lethal low-blowing Desmond Wolf, who is then hit with a muscle buster from Samoa Joe. It's basically a bit of a bad run that Wolf's on at the minute, but we can clearly point to why this is happening. It's not about his ability, it's not about him being off form, it's about the fact that he's having to deal with Jay Lethal and Samoa Joe, and he's having to do it all by himself. Samoa Joe returns to his feet and has his arm raised by the referee in the ring. As Jay Lethal and Maria Kanellis head back up the ramp, they've returned the favour from when Lethal became the Evolve champion a couple of weeks ago, and there is a nod of recognition from Joe to Jay. The commentators are still none the wiser as to the relationship between the two men, or whether Jay Lethal is now considered an associate or a member of the New Age of Honor. What is clear, however, is that something is going on, and Desmond Wolf, while he is down and out at the moment, he's not going to let this lie, especially when he wants that Evolve Championship back. Making his way down to the ring, Austin Aries has a smug look on his face as the commentators remind us what he did at the pay-per-view. Kurt Angle had CM Punk locked in an ankle lock during their unsanctioned fight. He says that it's another post-pay-per-view impact and another one where Kurt Angle is nowhere to be seen. We know why that is, and he explains that it is thanks to Austin Aries almost taking his head off at No Surrender. He asks who is left for the New Age of Honor to take out. Claudio is going to deal with TNA's World Heavyweight Champion tonight, and he's not sure there'll be anybody left to represent that company by glory, by honour. Coming out from the back, the first man to step up is Jeff Hardy, and he says that he has heard enough. There was nothing impressive about the actions of Austin Aries on Sunday. It was just the same old predictable crap from the New Age of Honor. He's not surprised considering who their saviour is, but he's here to shut Aries down before he goes on. Aries sees this as a physical threat, as Jeff Hardy makes it clear that's what it is, and he swings at Hardy, who ducks and hits him with a twist of fate. With Aries down, Hardy climbs to the top rope. He wants to hit that swanton bomb, but running out from the back, Steve Corino drags Aries to safety. That is a really great segment, advancing what has been renamed now to just ROH versus TNA, with the build-up to this Bound for Glory weekend. Very happy to see Aries cutting a promo at that level, and obviously Jeff Hardy being involved will help that. We then get a match from a very focused, a different side of El Generico that we see in. Decent reaction from the crowd, but subpar wrestling. It's a very average match, but it's about El Generico getting a dominant, decisive victory over Ace Steel, who's just here on a one-night deal. CM Punk had a little bit of a morale issue, so I brought in one of his mates to try and help smooth that over. Seems to have worked, as well as giving him some money, to be fair. El Generico picks up the win in 6 minutes and 18 with a haluva kick. That's the move that we're trying to get over as his finish at the minute. The key to this match is that we're seeing not the fun-loving, fan-interactive side of El Generico, but somebody who is very, very clearly quite pissed off, as well as determined and focused on his goals. And Colt Cabana joins the obviously frustrated El Generico in the ring, and the character doesn't speak English, so he's going to share his feelings on the events of No Surrender. Cabana doesn't expect them to have the guts to come out and face him right now, but if Jimmy Jacobs is so desperate to get involved in the action, he just has to ask. The trick they pulled at No Surrender might have ensured that they kept the title, but it told the world what everybody now knows. Tyler Black fears El Generico. So if Black needs Jacobs holding his hand, that is absolutely fine. But Cabana wants things done fairly. Next week, he and Generico are challenging Jimmy Jacobs and Tyler Black to a tag team match. And if the New Age of Honor aren't afraid, then surely they'll accept. The commentators put over this previously unseen, serious side of Cabana and Generico, but of course they have every justification to be like this. They mean business. After El Generico was screwed out of the X Division title on Sunday, he defeated Tyler Black by disqualification, having had to deal with Jimmy Jacobs throughout the match. But of course, titles don't change hands on a DQ. He's not going anywhere. He still wants that title. We then return to Mickie James defeating Rosita in 7 minutes and 2 seconds by pinfall with a Mickie DT. During the match, Sarita was at ringside, but Tara came out. She is not over losing to Mickie James at the pay-per-view or being involved in the match, and Madison Rayne getting pinned by Mickie, and she comes out, which causes Sarita to confront her. Sarita is then thrown into the guardrail by Tara. Despite this, Mickie refuses to lose focus, wins the match and stands tall. Following a chaotic ending to the match, Mickie James checks on Rosita before heading up the ramp. She's having her arm raised by the referee, but is closely followed by Tara, who is clearly obsessed with the Knockouts champion, and we're trying to put her over as a little bit unstable at the minute. She's relentless in demanding another title shot, then she frantically begins to beg for one, so clearly she's desperate and she doesn't really know the best way to handle this, and it's just coming out with her being very, very erratic at the moment. When the two women reach the top of the ramp, Mickey's had enough and pushes Tara, telling her to back off before she heads to the back. Attention then returns to the ring as it becomes apparent that for the first time, Rosita is all alone. Sarita is down due to the actions of Tara, and LAX, including the injured Amazing Red, are not at the building tonight. Coming out from the back, we see James Mitchell with a sadistic smirk on his face, followed by the monster Abyss. With a clear path to what he has coveted in recent weeks, Abyss enters the ring. Rosita, back to her feet now, is frozen in fear and has nowhere to go. Before Abyss can lay a hand on her, however, the lights go out, recognisable by his name on the screen and music that we haven't heard in a long, long time. D'Angelo De Niro makes his return. 15 months out injured, returning and heading to the ring to confront Abyss. Abyss tries to take the Pope down with a swing of the arm, but he ducks. Generico is fired up and eventually sends Abyss to the outside with a clothesline. James Mitchell quickly follows. He has taken down the man who cost him over a year of his career. It was Abyss in a match 15 months ago that broke his neck. And we see a smirk, that trademark smirk from Generico, the charisma that he exudes, and he turns to Rosita, giving her a kiss on the hand. He has saved the damsel in distress. The Pope is back, and the timing could not have been any better. Hopefully to a raucous, positive response. It's been such a long time since we've seen Generico. I'd imagine a lot of people had completely forgot about him, but he is back. And the stories that you can have with this man who has lost nearly a year and a half of his career to the monster Abyss, well, of course, that's the first step, but I think there's so much potential with him. He's coming into a very different company now. You look at who was hanging around and who was in the main event scene 15 months ago, and you look now, it's a very different situation, and that means loads of fresh matches and loads of fresh rivalries. It's not the best rated segment, but Generico's return is something that I am very much looking forward to booking. We then get a segment in the back where Sara Del Rey speaks with Jeremy Borash, and she says that she has requested this time to remind everybody exactly who she is. She thinks that people are maybe forgetting this as everybody enjoys the melodrama of the locker room, but what she does is get things done in the ring. She's going to do that this week on Evolve, but exactly what is she reminding people of? She's reminding them that she is still the queen of this division, she is still the queen of this company, and she is still the one true queen of wrestling. Attention is taken away from Del Rey, however, as yet another incident begins to unfold. In the background, Tara is heard screaming at Mickie James, and when the cameras catch up on what's happening, we quickly realise that she has jumped the Knockouts champion. The women are eventually pulled apart, but Sara Del Rey is not happy with the interruption. Attention taken away from her, as Tara's erratic behaviour, as we said, has spilled over into her physically assaulting Mickie James in the back. We then go into the main event, an 87 with Bryan Danielson off his game. If he hadn't been off his game, we're looking at another one of our best ever matches. Nonetheless, I think this is going to be one of our top rated shows. Danielson defeating Claudio Castagnoli, even, competitive, hard-hitting match, everything you'd expect from these two. And even in the booking, I am looking to protect Claudio a little bit, as it is a small package that Bryan Danielson is able to defeat him with. Claudio factors into some big plans that I have for a match at Bound for Glory, so we don't want him losing too decisively, but still Bryan proving why he's the best. Sat in the corner, having eked out a hard-fought victory over Claudio Castagnoli. This isn't a match that he's just going to dust himself off from. This was a physical affair. He is joined by CM Punk with the Ring of Honor World title that he picked up from the ring on Sunday in his arms. Punk also grabs the TNA World title from ringside before the referee can get to it. He looks to hand deliver that title to Bryan Danielson and holds both the Ring of Honor and the TNA title in his hands. Neither title belongs to him, but he's got both of them as he enters the 6th side. He's ready to hand over the title to Bryan. It's not like he's trying to steal this one as well, but the music of AJ Styles hits, the true Ring of Honor champion, making his return, his first appearance in a month, just as Bryan gets back to his feet. The three men now in the ring facing off, and AJ Styles quickly grabs a title back from Punk, but instinctually, he's taken the wrong title. Whatever's going on subconsciously there with AJ Styles, we're not trying to say that he sees the TNA title as more than Ring of Honor, but perhaps having been around the company for a lot longer than he's been the Ring of Honor champion, maybe it's just that, like I said, instinct kicking in. Bryan reacts by snatching the title from AJ as he realises what he's done. He then sheepishly takes the Ring of Honor title from CM Punk, who happily hands it over. He's got a smirk on his face. He is absolutely delighted to have, not necessarily that he's done anything major to cause that to happen, but it's a little bit embarrassing for AJ to have taken the wrong title. I'm kind of struggling to explain this because it's an angle that sort of, it shows you rather than telling you. The mentality of AJ Styles is that in that snap moment when he's not thinking, he's actually more drawn to the TNA title than the Ring of Honor title. During this face-off, Paul Heyman comes to the top of the ramp. He's the last person that these three men want to hear from, but they do stop and listen. Heyman announces that the three men in the ring will main event Bound for Glory with the TNA World Heavyweight Championship on the line. So a shocking blockbuster announcement in a really good segment to end the show. Of course, CM Punk claimed he'd never wrestle in a TNA ring, but Paul Heyman is making the decision. He sees the tension between these, and he may have some explaining to do to all three men. But for now, we're ending on that huge moment. AJ Styles and CM Punk will face at Glory by Honor, and then at Bound for Glory, one of them will walk in as Ring of Honor World Champion, looking to leave as the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, which is of course currently held by Bryan Danielson, and an 85 is a really good episode. I said I wanted to keep these above 80 in the build to Bound for Glory. We've been getting plenty of shows. I think we've had a couple of 85s and 86, so very, very good to see, as I've said over and over again. And we'll now go into Evolve before discussing everything that's happened during this week. And the show begins with footage from after Impact went off the air. AJ Styles was immediately approached for his reaction to Paul Heyman's announcement, and he kind of had the same reaction as I imagine a lot of people had. Why is CM Punk getting a TNA World Heavyweight Championship shot? That's a question that he's going to have to ask at a later date. The match has been made, but there's another match that he wants. The man who took him out of action, Samoa Joe, the man who beat him in a tables match when all this crap with CM Punk started, he wants him this week on Impact, and he wants him in an anything goes match. A good promo from AJ Styles, inventing a new catchphrase, so I think that's Kurt, Heyman and Punk now, as well as AJ, who have new catchphrases. So we're going to get some really great promos and segments in the build up to this World Heavyweight Championship match. That can only be a good thing. As we go into the opening match, the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles successfully defended by the Briscoes over ANX. 9 minutes and 42, so it is a quite competitive match, but Jay Briscoe pins Rhett Titus following a Briscoe device. Defense number 1, finally, of those tag team championships, and they stand tall in the ring. Despite their issues with the New Age of Honor, they make it clear that they still represent Ring of Honor, and they'll be doing that at Glory by Honor. They ask who from TNA wants a shot at the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships. Cutting to the back, Sanjay Dutt is with Consequences Creed, and he wants to confront Jay Lethal basically about his recent actions. They've had their issues and everything, but he's gone too far recently, associating with Samoa Joe and Ring of Honor, the guys who are actively trying to destroy this company. What is wrong with him? Jay Lethal says, "Who the hell do you think you are to speak to me? You two are nobodies, and I'm the champion of Evolve." Maria Kanellis then slaps Sanjay Dutt and walks off. So continuing just to put over that these two are dicks now, and further establishing the heel character of Jay Lethal. Sarah Del Rey defeats Sarita in 12 minutes and 18 by submission with a cross armbreaker. A 69 is a really good match. Sarita with a strong performance, decent according to the game, but for the knockouts, the fact that Sarah Del Rey can just casually drop a match this good on Evolve, it's definitely a good sign for what we have for her going forward. She stands in the ring and is confronted by Madison Rayne. She heard her promo from Impact and she wasn't impressed. Sarah Del Rey called herself the true queen of the knockouts, while Madison Rayne is the queen of the mountain. She's trying to cause some friction between the two, but Sarah Del Rey, in a sense, we want her to come across as being above Madison Rayne's petty nonsense, and she walks off, completely uninterested in getting into any arguments with Madison Rayne. We then get another segment that follows up on the final segment of Impact. This time it's Paul Heyman explaining why he made the Bound for Glory main event, and he says that it's simple. Bound for Glory, the biggest show of the year. This is the biggest match they can possibly make. Bryan Danielson, the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, showed how good he was at No Surrender in one of the best matches in TNA history. CM Punk also showed his ability in that unsanctioned fight, which was one of the best things that he has ever seen. With Mr. TNA AJ Styles back in the fold, he felt that there was no better match to make, and what a weekend this is going to be. So Paul Heyman all about putting the positive spin on that. But again, we still have, with the interviewer and with what AJ Styles said earlier, there's still going to be questions about CM Punk potentially leaving Bound for Glory weekend as both the Ring of Honor and TNA World Heavyweight Champion. Of course, AJ Styles could do that as well, but Heyman allowing Punk to potentially have that much power over the company, certainly something that we're going to need to dig a little bit deeper into. And in the main event, it's a really good match. We stuck Chris Hero and Kazarian out there because we knew they'd be able to do this. It's a slightly tainted victory. Daniels at ringside with Kazarian, Claudio at ringside with Hero, but Hero wins following a rolling elbow. and again some kind of distraction from Claudio at ringside. After the match, the Kings of Wrestling stand tall. Perhaps during the match, Claudio takes Christopher Daniels out by throwing him into the steel steps, and then his distraction is able to help Hero to win. However, it is not a clean win, but the Kings stand tall. A really good episode of Evolve. Very, very happy with this week of shows. Coming out of No Surrender, we had to turn up the heat on Bound for Glory, but also after such a good show, it is always difficult to follow up, I suppose. I remember saying after Bound for Glory last year, while I did have plans for the sort of next couple of months, it's kind of hard when you've put so much into building towards one show to immediately switch focus to the next one. Thankfully, with the build we've got for Bound for Glory, I'm sure that's not going to be an issue. Ace Steel moving on after his one-shot deal. Joey Styles, not sure that, he does have history with Paul Heyman, but I don't think that's somebody we're going to pursue. And we've got a few deals that I need to do something about, a few guys who are under development contracts. Steve Corino says there that Consequences Creed is turning into a good worker, something to keep an eye on with that. And Davey Richards criticising Kenny King. So we always tend to get one positive and one negative. Unsurprised there. Continuing to build heat and hopefully intrigue and excitement for everybody watching towards what is going to happen at Bound for Glory. We've got a couple of matches already announced, as well as a match announced for Glory by Honor. The Briscoes are going to defend their titles. This Impact goes straight into the top 10, and really now I want to fill that top 10 with shows from this month, and the target, as I've said again and again, is to topple this show. But if you look, 4 shows from September, 1 from October, so we are doing better shows than we have ever done. Bryan Danielson versus Claudio Castagnoli goes into 6th place. Who knows where that could have been had Danielson been on his game. Really happy with how everything is doing at the minute. Our TV ratings even doing pretty well. That's the 6th best show we've ever done, and we're getting back up there. We do eventually want to get back to the very, very top, but it's good to see that the numbers aren't too far off what we've been able to get. So I can sum that all up by saying it's a great month and a great time for TNA at the moment, and it couldn't have come round more fortuitously. Delighted with everything that's going on. Hopefully everybody is enjoying it. If you are, thank you for watching, and we'll be back next time with another episode on the build to Bound for Glory 2011.